Welcome back to Jerusalem Minute. Josh Haston here, broadcasting from Jerusalem, the heart and soul of the Jewish people. I am here with Alex Trayman, CEO of JNS News. Alex, welcome back to Israel.
Oh, it's good to be here, even though the circumstances are what they are, and looks like it could be scary times here in the land. Feels like this is home, and this is where at least I am supposed to be.
Yeah, it's where you're supposed to be, and I certainly feel safer here, despite all the craziness that's happened over the past week and all the threats that are looming above us, which we're going to get to in just a minute here. But first, let's talk about how Israel was very, very busy this past week. Number one, Israel took out in an airstrike in Beirut the Hezbollah number 2 terrorist leader Fuad Shukr, directly responsible for the murder of 12 Druze children in a playground last Saturday, also responsible for the deaths of over 200 U.S. Marines and French soldiers all the way back in 1983, Israel taking him out in a targeted strike. Let's start with this Hezbollah leader, Shukr.
Right. Well, this was the response, so to speak, of the murder of 12 Druze children on a soccer field. We talked about it last week. It was a red line that Israel just had to respond to. And you're starting to see now that Israel is being more aggressive. This strike on Fuad Shukr, who you mentioned, he's the number 2 under Hassan Nasrallah. He was the number 2 who was responsible for the Marine barracks bombing, which killed 240 Marines in 1983. As you said, there's actually a $5 million bounty on his head from the United States for anybody that gives information that could be leading to this man's capture or death. I wonder if Israel will get the $5 million for that. I wouldn't count on it. But Israel struck deep inside Beirut. And, Amos Hochstein, who is the lead negotiator for the United States between Lebanon and Hezbollah, reportedly told Lebanon Israel won't strike in Beirut. And, in fact, Israel struck a targeted airstrike on a building. They knew Fuad Shukr was going in there. They took out the building. And Israel said, or is making it clear, that they need to take out the leaders of these terrorist organizations. And that assassination comes barely a week, or not even a week, after Israel had targeted Mohammed Deif, who was the number 2 inside Gaza by Yahya Sinwar. So and they took him out in the home of the Hamas's number 4. So they took him out there in a targeted assassination. And this also comes after the strike in Yemen, right? So Israel clearly getting more aggressive. In Yemen, they went after the oil refineries, and here in Gaza, in Beirut, and we'll talk about Haniyeh in a second, they're going after the top leadership of these organizations and hitting them where it hurts.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Israel's going to see that $5 million. But one thing I don't understand is why didn't the U.S. jump for joy? Why didn't they send a plaque even to the Israeli leadership for taking out a man who was partially, if not almost fully, responsible for the deaths of 240 Marines? You would think that there would be some type of official proclamation, congratulations, thanking Israel for doing something the U.S. was unable to do all the way since the early 80s. I mean, nothing. I mean, it sounds like crickets to me.
Well, the United States has been unwilling to draw the association that Nasrallah, Haniyeh, these people are like Osama bin Laden, that Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis are essentially the Shiite version of the Islamic State. This is ISIS Shiite style over here, even though Hamas and the Houthis are Sunni, but they're being run by Iran, which is Shiite, and Hezbollah is Shiite. This is basically the parallel of ISIS, and you're not hearing any of that because the United States is just trying to put pressure on Israel to scale back escalation and to rush towards a ceasefire, which they would hope to accomplish before the November election. And it's looking increasingly unlikely that that's going to happen.
So then you had perhaps even the biggest news of the week, the death of Ismail Haniyeh. Different reports as to how he was killed. He was in Tehran there celebrating the nomination or the inauguration of the new president of Iran, and he was taken out in his complex there. Supposed to be very secure, him and his bodyguard or whatnot. Some are saying it was a bomb, others saying it was some sort of missile. Israel did not take responsibility for the death of Ismail Haniyeh. Remember, we're talking about the head of Hamas. people call him the political head, and I don't really see a differentiation between the political head and the military head. This is a maniacal terrorist organization bent on Israel's destruction, and we took out their number one. This was, again, I'll take a step back. We didn't officially take out their number one, but all signs point to Israel. But that being said, the world is a better place. There's a little less evil in the world out there. Ismail Haniyeh, the head of Hamas, no longer.
Well, you pointed to the fact that Israel hasn't made it clear that they were behind the attack. When Israel operates in other countries, it is oftentimes leaves some degree of ambiguity about whether it committed the strike or not. And this attack took place in the heart of Tehran. Not only did it take place in the heart of Tehran, but Haniyeh, as you mentioned, was there as an official state visitor for the swearing-in ceremony of the new Iranian president, Masoud Pezeshkian, and he was staying in a complex, a highly secured complex of the Islamic Republic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And this is supposed to be the most highly protected compound probably in the country, and that Israel was able to take out their man deep inside Tehran. I mean, this has got to have the Iranians shaking in their boots because it means that they, it's along the lines of the assassination of these nuclear scientists, but it means that they can strike whoever they want, wherever they want in Iran, and that's the same message that was delivered when they hit the oil refineries in Yemen, which are very far away from Israel, almost as far away as Iran, and they took them out in airstrikes, basically saying the long arm of the law will reach you. If you mess with Israel, we can strike back.
This shows that to the Iranians themselves, this shows that they are weak. This is a sign of weakness that somebody was able to go out and do this. I mean, you had a guest in their country. I mean, this is against everything that they stand for culturally. And really, and that's why we'll get to it in a second, that's why they are threatening to attack Israel, which could happen in 24 hours, 48 hours, whenever it happens. This is a sign of weakness, and that's absolutely unacceptable in their customs, in their religion, in their diplomacy. They will not accept this weakness, and that's why we're hearing about the threats now.
Yeah, I think it's important that you're talking about the Islamic culture, and it's something that we don't always talk about on the program, but we really should. There cannot be ambiguity about who's strong and who's weak in the Middle East. Whenever there's ambiguity, that's going to force both sides to advance and demonstrate that they are the strong horse. And that's why the American policy in the region has been so dangerous under the Biden administration, also under the Obama administration, because they always seek to balance forces against each other. They seek to balance the Israelis against the Palestinians, and the wider region to balance Israel against Iran, to balance the Saudis against Iran. Whenever you try to create a position of balance, what you're essentially doing is causing conflict, because the word Islam, it means submission. It means one party is strong, one party is subjugated to the strong. That's why when Jews lived in Muslim countries, they lived as dhimmi, as second-class citizens that paid oppressive taxes, that weren't able to work in every type of occupation, because it was clear, okay, you can be here, but we're the strong force and you're the second fiddle. And they can understand it the other way too. They can understand that Israel's the strong player and that they are subservient to whoever is the reigning power in the region. And that's why it's important for Israel's survival that they have to be the reigning power. So now we just hit deep inside Iran, deep inside Tehran, inside a facility that's protected by the strongest force in Iran, and it is a show of weakness. And Iran is not going to sit back idly and to allow Israel to humiliate it like they did just last week.
So now the fear is a multi-front attack, perhaps Iran attacking us directly as they did in April, along with Hezbollah in retaliation for killing Fuad Shukr, and also, the Houthis can get involved as well. Let's go to a clip here by the IDF spokesperson Daniel Hagari, talking about how the IDF is on high alert both on a defensive front and on an offensive front.
צה"ל נמצא בכוננות גבוהה, הן בהגנה והן בהתקפה. כוחות צה"ל פרוסים באוויר, בים וביבשה, וערוכים לכל תרחיש, ובמיוחד לתוכניות ההתקפה בטווח הזמן המיידי. אנחנו ערוכים חזק מאוד בהגנה, ויותר מכך חזק מאוד בהתקפה, ונדע להגיב ולהגן על מדינת ישראל.
So there you have it. Hagari, the IDF spokesperson, saying that Israel is prepared for any type of scenario in the near future, anticipating Iranian revenge, or at least attempt at revenge for the killings over the past week. And I mean, I went out and got some bottles of water. I don't know if you did, if that's being overly cautious, but I think there are some people out there who are going out and stocking up on some canned goods and food and water and whatnot, getting prepared, which actually Anthony Blinken said that the attack, possibly the Iranian attack, could happen in the next 24, 48 hours.
Yes. So far, the Home Front Command in Israel has not changed any of the instructions for Israeli citizens. So Israelis are somewhat left in the lurch over here. We don't know if and when Iran is going to attack. There's a lot of bluster and a lot of confirmation from the United States, as you said, and others, that Iran is going to attack. We saw also this week that the United States, the United Kingdom, Jordan urged their citizens inside Lebanon to leave immediately, to take whatever available flights there are out of the country, because it's clear that they see now that there could be this coordinated attack, both from Iran and from Hezbollah, and that Israel would not be expected to stand idly by if there was some kind of coordinated attack, if there is any attack, for that matter, from these parties.
So, yeah, it's ironic, though, you have the Lebanese who are trying to free the country. I know Israelis are trying to get back home as soon as possible. There were 300 Israelis stranded over the weekend because of the Iranian threat, airline flights canceled or whatnot. There was a group of, I think, 300 in Prague trying to get back home. Some have arrived, others anticipated to arrive today. But, it's an entirely different mentality. We're trying to get back home, and they're fleeing Lebanon.
So there's two major questions right now strategically. One, what is Iran going to do? Are they going to send, like they did in April, 300 ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, drones towards Israel? Indications are that they would send more this time and do it over multiple days. If you remember the attack in April, the whole thing in Israel, the entire event seemed to last about 10 minutes.
Yep.
It was hours. Okay, now they're firing the drones. Okay, now they're firing the cruise missiles. Now they're firing the ballistic missiles. All of them were supposed to get to Israel at the same time. So it was a singular event. This is expected potentially to be more than a singular event over several days. Hezbollah could get involved. Nasrallah has threatened, and other members of Hezbollah have threatened that they would no longer target what they said is quote-unquote only military targets in the north close to the border, but that they would now be willing to fire deeper into Israeli territory and without the specific care to only target military targets, which means that they're just going to let their arsenal of long-range missiles loose on the Israeli populace. Cities like Haifa and even Tel Aviv are the ones that I think are the most vulnerable to these types of strikes. But Hezbollah has 150 to 200,000 missiles. Several thousand of them might be long-range, precision-guided, can deliver much heavier payloads than the types of missiles that Hamas has been firing at Israel since the beginning of the war. This bomb that killed the 12 Druze was a 50-kilogram bomb, which is pretty heavy, but not the heaviest. And so the question is, how much are they willing to do? And then the question number two is, what is Israel going to do about it? If Israel understands that it's imminent, that Iran is going to start striking at it with ballistic missiles, and that Hezbollah is going to start to rain its arsenal of weaponry on Israel, then the Israeli military doctrine is to preempt with a strike, with the heavy strikes in advance, because every hour makes a difference. You don't want to start absorbing all this and only then responding. So the question is what is Israel going to do? Are they going to preempt? Are they going to wait for the attack to come first? And then how would they respond? And then is this going to be finally the all-out war that I think everybody has understood is coming for a long time.
I would hope, as was the case in 1967, that when Israel knew that an attack was imminent, that they decided to go ahead and take action. And as you said, it could be a matter of hours right now. I hope the battle plans are being put together and everything's being put in place. I don't think we should be able, we should sustain a major attack before we respond. I mean, you mentioned 150,000 rockets. Who knows how many of those they're actually going to possibly fire this time? Who knows how many Iran is going to fire? I would agree with the doctrine that we need to take action. I know that one of the factors is the United States and the pressure we're seeing, and you saw it for yourself firsthand when you were in D.C. last week. President Joe Biden not very happy with Prime Minister Netanyahu. Apparently, they had a high tension conversation on Thursday with President Biden telling Netanyahu to stop BSing me, and I'm paraphrasing there, and not, quote, to take the president for granted. Apparently, he was upset that he wasn't informed if, in fact, Israel took out Ismail Haniyeh. Also upset in terms of the slow progress, if there is any progress, on the hostage ceasefire deal. And he also said, and I think this is perhaps maybe the most important, he said that Haniyeh's killing has, quote, not helped to reach a ceasefire deal. Let's go ahead and play that clip.
I'm very concerned about it. I had a very direct meeting with Prime Minister today, and very direct. We have the basis for a ceasefire. He should move on it, and they should move on it now.
Is there a chance for a ceasefire ruined after the assassination of Haniyeh? Is there a chance for a ceasefire ruined after the assassination of Haniyeh?
It's not helped.
Again, you would think that if it's Israel or another party, let's say, took out this major terrorist, the head of an international terrorist organization, Hamas, you would think that the U.S. president would be praising and not saying that the Israeli prime minister is BSing him and saying that it's not helpful. I mean, geez, when is it ever helpful? We get this time and time again. Now is not the right time. Maybe you could have killed him. Now is not the right time. We heard this with Judea and Samaria so many times. You could build there, but now is not the right time. When is it ever the right time to take out a major terrorist?
Well, if you look at the way a lot of the mainstream media, including CNN and New York Times and others, were calling, they were saying that Haniyeh was the moderate. He was the one that was pressing for the ceasefire.
Real moderate.
He's the one that's been preventing a ceasefire deal the entire time. He's been the one that they go to in the negotiations that refuses to return the hostages. But Netanyahu has stated over and over again that the way that you get towards a deal, a ceasefire deal, a deal to get all the hostages back, is by applying maximum military pressure. So while Biden is saying this isn't helpful for a deal, I can assure you that Netanyahu is believing and advancing that this is actually the way to get the ceasefire. And that's why Netanyahu was dispatched once again, Barnea, the head of the Mossad, and Ronen Bar, the head of the Shabak, the Internal Security Services, to Cairo in order to try to negotiate again, because Hezbollah has said in the past that they would potentially end their aggression against Israel if there would be a ceasefire reached in Gaza. So now, if it's understood that Israel is taking out the top leadership of Hamas one by one, they just got Def, they just got Haniyeh, maybe they're going to get Mashal at some point, maybe they're going to get Sinwar. They've taken out a lot of the rest of the leadership, that there's not a lot of leadership left. And if Sinwar and others want to survive this thing, and if they don't want to see now all of Lebanon turned into what Gaza was turned into, then there's a good opportunity now to declare a ceasefire. So they're actually aggressively trying to reach a ceasefire now, which would include the return of the Israeli hostages. So what Biden is saying on the one hand is wrong. On the other hand, what Biden should be saying right now, what the Americans should be saying is, if you guys attack Israel, there's going to be severe consequences for your actions, okay? And that refers to Hezbollah, that refers also to Iran, but you're not hearing them say that. You're hearing Biden saying, I don't know if they'll respond. I hope they don't, or I hope everybody calms the tensions down. And then you hear Lloyd Austin and others saying, we're sending, they're sending additional U.S. USS carrier groups. So the Lincoln Group is coming over here now to help Israel in its defense, similar to the way they helped defend Israel on April 13th when Iran fired those missiles directly at Israel. But remember what happened immediately after that. Biden said, take the win, right? It's not a win anymore, okay? The reason why they're thinking that they can fire again at Israel is because nothing happened to them when they did it the first time. If you want to see calm in the region, as the world's #1 police officer and the strongest military in the world, you have to apply the severe threat of military force. There has to be a real military option on the table. We've been saying this for years about Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons. Without the threat of severe military repercussions, there's no incentive for Iran and Hezbollah not to fire at Israel.
And looking at Hamas, if you really want a ceasefire, let's help Israel get to a ceasefire. How do you do that? You defeat Hamas, you bring back the hostages. Yet, nevertheless, we have discovered, and we've talked about it before, that the Biden administration is slow rolling weapons sales to the Jewish state. There was a letter written by Senator Tom Cotton, signed by 47 other Republican senators, in which he alleges that the Biden administration is, quote, deliberately delaying certain munitions to Israel. I'm talking about 120 millimeter tank ammunition, 120 millimeter mortar ammunition, light tactical vehicles, air-to-air missiles, F-15s, plane engines, on and on and on. Originally, we said, the Biden administration at least claimed that, no, we are only holding up these 2,000 bombs because we don't want you to bomb Rafah with this weaponry. But apparently, it looks like they're holding up much more ammunition than we thought. And here you have several quotes here. You have Tom Cotton in the letter saying, your stalling tactics, referring to the Biden administration, are endangering our greatest ally in the Middle East and jeopardizing the lives of our American service members stationed in the region. So not only are they endangering Israeli lives by not providing Israel the weapons that they need, they are also endangering service members, U.S. service members stationed here in the region.
Yeah, this is 47 Congress members signed this letter. It's not the first letter that they've sent. And the United States has claimed that they're only holding up this one shipment of the 2,000-pound bombs. So, first of all, Republicans are pointing out, and others are pointing out, that's not the case, that there's other types of weapons that have been held up, that a lot of the weapons that have been approved to send to Israel, including a recent approval to ship F-35s to Israel, that's not going to happen for years, okay, many years. So, but when we're talking about the 2,000-pound weapons, the 500-pound weapons, those are weapons that Israel could need now. Now, the reason that the U.S. administration gave for holding up the 2,000-pound weapons is because they didn't want Israel to go into Rafah. They didn't want Israel to go there. They said that these weapons would kill tons and tons of civilians. And Netanyahu discussed this in his speech to Congress. He said, they told us not to go in. They told us there was no way to go in without killing tons of civilians. And he basically pointed out that Israel has been in there, has accomplished many of its goals without much civilian casualty, even though they found hostages inside Rafah. They found tunnels inside Rafah. Just yesterday, a tunnel was uncovered. This is actually major news. A tunnel was uncovered on the Philadelphia corridor that leads into Egypt.
It was like a highway.
Yes, that vehicles can go in and out of. It's a full size. It's Lincoln Tunnel, basically, that goes under the Gaza and Egyptian border. And Israel didn't need to use these weapons for Rafah. They went building to building. They went carefully. And what would they need these weapons for? They would need these weapons for a military operation against Hezbollah. They would need these weapons for military strikes in Iran, especially if they are going to target some of Iran's military and nuclear facilities in response to any kind of attack. So they are hamstringing Israel's ability to fight a war in real time, a war that is potentially imminent. By withholding these weapons. These weapons could have already been in Israel's hands, but the United States is playing games. And what they're doing is that they're sending signals. They're sending signals to Iran and to Hezbollah that the United States does not back Israel to retaliate. So if you're not putting a military threat on the table, and you're not even backing Israel's military threat, you're looking at the situation and you're saying, I have basically a yellow light to go ahead. And a yellow light is not a red light. You can go through a yellow light. And so that's what Iran is thinking right now. And at the same time, Netanyahu is also looking at the situation. He just went to America. He met with Biden. Every talking point that you're hearing from Biden right now is basically like a 3-word phrase. You said it before, like, stop bullshitting me. That's basically all you're hearing from Biden. It's, I hope they calm down. It's these 4-word sentences. Netanyahu goes to America, he meets with the president. What does he realize? There's not a strong president in the United States. There just isn't, okay? And now you've got Kamala Harris. She's talking tough, but she's not the president. Not only that, she's distracted because she's running for president, and she didn't preside over Netanyahu's session of Congress because she's on the campaign trail. She's fighting for her political life right now. Donald Trump, he's watching what's going on. He can talk tough, but ultimately he's not the president right now. In fact, the worse the situation gets in the Middle East, probably the better his chances of winning the presidency. At the same time, Netanyahu's looking at Trump, and Trump wants to end wars. He doesn't want to start them. So Netanyahu can't say to himself, well, let me wait in case Trump will be president. First of all, that's maybe a 50-50 proposition at best. Second, if Trump does win, doesn't mean he's going to give Netanyahu a green light to just do whatever he wants. He wants to end the conflict. So Netanyahu's looking at the situation. There's no strong president right now in the United States. I might not have a green light to go later. Probably there's little that Biden can do to stop me. It's been enough already. And so he's stepped up the aggressiveness, and that's why they've attacked now in Yemen. That's why they have attacked hard on Def in Gaza. That's why they attacked Haniyeh in Tehran. That's why they attacked Fuad Shukr in Hezbollah. He's looking at the situation, and he realizes that strategically there might not be a better time to do this than right now, and that is why he's advanced. Now they're waiting. If there is significant, incontrovertible proof that Iran is going to strike first, that Hezbollah is going to strike first, I do think you might see an Israeli preemptive strike.
We might know very, very soon, but as you said, there are a lot of pieces to the puzzle, and another one of those, unfortunately, we woke up to terrible news yesterday morning. A terrorist attack in the city of Holon, that's a suburb just south of Tel Aviv. 2 Israelis were murdered, another 3 injured, and including a 66-year-old woman and a man in his 80s. They were murdered by a terrorist in a stabbing rampage, essentially, in several different locations there in Holon. So the question is, number one, is this just another example of somebody coming out of the PA, carrying out a terrorist attack, which we've seen now for many, many years? Or, is it just they're evil? Or is this a direct link to the death of Ismail Haniyeh? Or perhaps a third option is this is just an excuse to go out and murder Jews, murder Israelis, because Haniyeh was killed. So we'll say, well, I did it because, or the excuse will be, we'll go look in his social media. The excuse will be is because Israel took out our leader, our Hamas leader. So therefore I decided to go into a park and murder 2 elderly Israelis who are just waking up, starting their week here in the Jewish state. Just a terrible attack yesterday.
Well, terrorists haven't needed excuses in order to carry out their attacks. They carry out terrorist attacks with regularity. It's been relatively quiet inside Judea and Samaria over the past several weeks, perhaps because the IDF has actually been extraordinarily active there, taking out the terror enclaves that do exist. Hamas has a lot of public support throughout Judea and Samaria, and if there would be an open election in those areas for a leader, probably Hamas would win those elections. They look at Mahmoud Abbas as corrupt, as weak. They look at Hamas as strong, as the ones that are actually attacking Israel. And they've grown up. Many of these Palestinians have grown up, all of them have grown up with tons of propaganda, from textbooks to televisions to public speeches, all calling for the death of Jews, the glorification of martyrdom, the naming of public squares after so-called martyrs that were basically terrorists that committed first-degree murder acts on Jews. So, when Palestinians are peaceful, and there are a lot of peaceful Palestinians that don't want the war, they just want money, and they see that Israel has money to offer them, and they can live good lives here, and why do we need the fighting? But do you know what type of mental gymnastics they have to go through to overcome the propaganda that they've been raised with in order to reach those conclusions? When you have somebody wake up in the morning and decide, I'm going to kill a Jew, they've been trained to do that. They've been taught to do that. They've been taught that is a virtue to do that. It's a virtuous act. So it's not a surprise when it happens. And this is the reason why Netanyahu has said this is a seven front war. This is Iran. This is Yemen. This is Gaza. This is Hezbollah. This is Judea and Samaria as well. So this is the real situation here, that Israel and the IDF are busy dealing with threats on every single front.
The IDF bolstering its presence in the Sharon region just north of Tel Aviv along the seam line after Israel carried out a military operation over the weekend, killing 9 terrorists in the town of Tulkarem, that's under the Palestinian Authority control. So they're bolstering a presence there, afraid that perhaps some of these terrorists will try to cross into, let's call it pre-1967 as Israel, and carry out some sort of October 7th style attack. So Israel on high alert on that front as well. A country that we haven't talked about that much on the show is Turkey. You had the president of Turkey, Erdogan, several times over the last week, basically threaten the Jewish state of Israel, even saying that we are willing to send in a ground force of some sort in order to attack Israel, comparing it to other different skirmishes in which Turkey was involved in. Let's quickly take a look at that video clip.
We need to be very strong so that Israel cannot do these ridiculous things to Palestine. Just as we entered Karabakh, just as we entered Libya, we can do something similar to them. There is no reason for us not to. We only have to be strong so that we can take these steps.
So there you have it, the president of Turkey directly threatening the Jewish state of Israel. If it wasn't enough, we were already dealing with Iran and dealing with Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, or whatnot. Turkey looks like wants a piece of the action, namely to get involved in the war here in Israel.
Well, Erdogan has been a long-time supporter of Hamas in Gaza. Remember, he was the one who sent the Mami Marvara, the flotilla towards Gaza. He's no peacenik. I mean, it was only a couple of months ago that he was, making overtures toward Israel, but he reads the tea leaves, and he sees now that all of his Muslim brethren, partners along the region are attacking Israel. So he's threatening to get in the action. I don't know if he would, but it's a threat that Israel has to take very seriously right now. Israel has to be ready for every scenario. There is a very real possibility and a threat that this can become a major regional multi-front war simultaneously, and Turkey is one of those fronts. Now, also just Egypt, which has become clear that Egypt has been, if not facilitating, at least not blocking the smuggling of weapons and other things into Gaza, and perhaps some of the Gazan leadership has been, or hostages have been smuggled out of Gaza into Egypt via these tunnels that Egypt obviously understood were there for a long time. But Egypt this week also said that they were pledging their support for Lebanon. So Egypt is one of the most built-up military forces in the region. They have a very significant air force, most of those weapons coming from the United States, okay? So the United States have been not just giving weapons to Israel, right? They always talk about maintaining Israel's qualitative military edge. What does that mean? It means that we're going to sell Israel more weapons than we're selling the Egyptians, more weapons than we're selling the Saudis, more weapons than we're selling all over the rest of the region. So Israel has to be prepared for a threat from Turkey. Israel has to be prepared for a threat from Egypt. And Israel has to be prepared that Iranian proxies in Syria, in Iraq, in Yemen, in Lebanon, all could attack. There's even the threat that Jordan could send troops across. This could be the large regional war that Israel has been afraid could be working for many years.
Well, the next 24, 48 hours might be critical in terms of what happens next, but I do want to end on a positive note. If we can, I don't know, Alex, have you caught any of the Olympic coverage, the 2024 Paris Games? Have you seen anything in all your, I know you're a busy guy.
I mean, I heard about the opening ceremony and all the... I heard about the opening ceremony. I heard about the male boxer. I don't know. I haven't taken too much time to watch Olympics, but I know that Israel's not doing so poorly.
No, Israel, in fact, up to 6 medals which is outstanding. We've won medals in judo. We've won medals in gymnastics. And over the weekend, Tom Reuveni won the gold medal in men's windsurfing, the Paris Olympics. And it was the first gold medal won by Israel in this competition. So we're up to 6 medals. A little bit of controversy. You can't get away from it, apparently, when it comes to Israel. When they were raising the flags and they were playing the Hatikva, for some reason, the Israeli flag, while the other flags were fluttering in the wind, the Israeli flag got caught up on the pole. And some people are saying that, no, that's a conspiracy theory. And other people are saying that deliberately, the Olympics did not want the blue and white in all its glory fluttering in the wind, and it was just, it kind of went up the flagpole and got stuck there as the other flags were fluttering. So I don't have any proof one way or another, but if you ask me, I would say that this was deliberate, that this was done by the Olympic Committee so that they don't have to give Israel the recognition it deserves. But either way, they can't rain on our parade. 6 Olympic medals, which is unbelievable for the state of Israel.
Yeah, I don't know too much about the flagpole incident.
Take a look at it. It's pretty shady.
But I did see a post demonstrating the number of medals that Israel's won in the Olympics versus the number of medals that the 22 Muslim-majority nations surrounding Israel have won, and Israel's won more medals.
Yeah, 6 versus 2.
Yeah,
I saw so far.
Yes.
But yeah, go watch that video and take a look and judge for yourselves whether this was a move to sabotage the Israeli flag. But it was beautiful to see that Tikva playing over the weekend.
And hopefully there'll be some more medals.
Yeah, and it's not over yet. We still have opportunities for other medals. But that's all the time we have here on this week's edition of Jerusalem Minute. My name is Josh Haston, correspondent for JNS News. I'm here in studio once again with Alex Trayman, CEO of JNS. Continue to tune in to all of the amazing programming offered by JNS TV. Go to the website, jns.org, for all the latest news on Israel. And let's hope for a safe week. Let's hope for a peaceful week. And again, I think the next few days will be critical. Continue to pray for the brave men and women of the IDF who are protecting us 24/7. And I'd be remiss if I didn't give a big shout out to Ryan Lifshitz, the one and only, who's doing so much work behind the scenes here at JNS, making sure these programs get up. Thanks, Ryan, for everything you do. Have a safe week, everybody. And please God, we will talk to you again next Monday.